Yeah, we're recording. Thank you.
So much. I'm glad to see everybody at this sort of close to beautiful Saturday. Let's go ahead and make sure you're all signed in, and then let's start by approving the minutes. Does anybody have anything to talk about regarding the minutes from our last couple meetings? Would anyone like to move that we should go ahead and approve those minutes? Okay, we've got a motion to approve the minutes. Okay, is there a second? Any further discussion on the minutes before we vote to approve? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No one's opposed, minutes are approved. Yay! And now is the time for open feedback, at-home reflections, stuff you've thought about this week, brilliant ideas you had, great successes. Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
I was thinking about the PR firm that's assisting us at this point. One topic that has come up is plugging into the churches in town. I mean, is that just something that we would do individually, or is there, because it just seems like that's a interconnected system and held in high regard by parishioners. I just wanted to throw that in, whether this firm, whether there's a council of churches in town or something of that sort.
Absolutely, I think it's a great idea. Fabian, is there a way to ask the PR firm to make sure that they're reaching out to dioceses and synods and synagogues and what have you?
Yeah, we are actually. I'm going to go to the IMF this week, the interdenominational ministry. I mean, they capture a lot of the churches in town. We also reached out to NOAA, that is arm, is connected to all the houses of worship in the city. But if you have any specific church that you can think of that we should be going, please let us know, because like I said before, any leads that you can think of are welcome. And Tiara has been connecting with all the neighborhood associations, and I believe that she's also doing other entities that want us to come and talk to them. But yeah, that's a really valid point. Churches are so important in Nashville. So.
As it relates also to the PR firm, and I had to miss that meeting, I was down here, but the parking garage gave me fits. So apologize I wasn't here, but trusted partners, as I read in the minutes, who are their trusted partners? Can you explain that to me a little more?
Sure, so we gave them a list of, I think, close to 30 trusted partners that our group suggested, who they'll be hopefully working with 20 of them, and giving them a stipend in order to do.
So those are the ones that we gave them
Yes.
to reach out on our
We
behalf.
don't have a report back on which of any of those organizations they've successfully connected with, nor do we know anything about their progress through that. I certainly would expect that a report should be given sooner in the near future, what with us being down to a month.
Yeah, it's been kind of slow to get feedback from some of these entities. We have been successful with many, but not all of them. So it's just taking a while to get some of them to follow up. And also some have told us that they are not able to do it, or they don't have the capacity to do it. So yeah, we owe you a report. I apologize. We'll make sure that I'll send it to you over an email. Is that okay?
Sure. Can you give us an example of some that have said yes?
Yeah, like Conexión América said yes. For example, I'm trying to remember. I wish I could open my phone, but I'm
That's
recording.
Okay. All right, that would be great. If you could just make sure everybody's got that
Yeah.
information, that would be terrific. 'Cause we
I can tell you one entity that said no. It's an entity that we reached out that dealt with Middle Eastern community in town, and they said that they don't have the capacity, but they will agree to work as a consultant, which is really not what the trusted partner model will go for. So, I'll send you an email with an update on where we are with all the.
Yeah, so if some drop out or they're aren't able to work, we could feed them with more in hopes in that short time period that
Yeah.
To get more idea, I mean, it's a fluid thing, right? And I don't know, is churches, did we put any churches, or are they trusted partners, or?
Well-
Okay, so it's just kind of,
Yeah, NOAA will be the pipeline to the churches, really. They are the entity that connects with all the churches that are interested in working with underserved communities.
okay.
So I think they said yes. I think they are going to help, but I have to confirm.
Okay.
Great, thank you for bringing that up, it's been on my mind as well. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can't stop thinking about the fact that we've got a month left at this point, and I'm really worried that, you know, we've got the PR firm engaged. I haven't really seen anything coming through about it, and I just have all this anxiety that we're gonna get to the end of this month, we're not going to have enough submissions from certain communities and areas, and that just really, gets stuck in my stomach, I feel like. And so, I know a lot can be done in a month. I know we're paying this PR firm a lot of money. To me, it's probably more important for idea submission than rather than voting, in the grand scheme of things. And I just worry about these next 4 weeks. Will we get enough ideas submitted? Have we done enough there? We're paying out a lot of money to this firm. And at the end of the day, if we end up with like certain districts that don't have enough submissions, have we done our job? So sorry to be a fly in the ointment, but that's something.
No, I would second that. Is there an opportunity to extend the submissions and take away from another part? Because it does feel, what was it, 2 or 3 Saturdays ago, we just met with the PR firm. And the trusted partners, some it sounds like are falling out and others aren't. So for us to have a real good handle as a committee on what the partners, what feedback we're getting, what's coming out, it just feels like a little more time. And it didn't seem like what I heard that I don't know that there was a lot of faith and excitement about this PR firm from what I heard. Maybe there is, and maybe I just haven't heard it that way. But yeah, it seems like a lot of money in a very short amount of time, and not a lot of information and knowledge about where this is taking us, and that's a big component. So, where's the flexibility with moving?
Can I speak to that?
Hang on, Carol's got something, and we'll go to you.
Well, just
Thanks.
piggybacking off of what Jason had to say, I haven't seen anything in any social media at all. I haven't seen any like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, nothing on Twitter. The only things I've seen on LinkedIn is things that Fabian has posted and any of us have reposted and shared. I've posted on, in my neighborhood pages a couple of times. And I'll be talking about it at our neighborhood association meeting next week. But, outside of that, I've not seen anything out there.
Before we let Fabian speak, does anybody else? Yeah.
So I have one question, and maybe someone can answer. Who is representing District 19?
Jacob Cooper.
Oh, he's not here?
He's not here.
Okay. Well, I want to make this point. This is very interesting to me, right? Because, I think we all have taken, I've taken flyers, and I've passed out flyers. I probably got 100 more to pass out. But when I saw District 19 is leading the pack, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that means this individual is doing the work. But it was somewhat discouraging to me because 19 is where everything's happening, right? That's like downtown, so, okay, take the politics out of it. But I thought, wow, does this mean that if District 19 downtown, Sound Stadium, all this new stuff that's happening, if they run up this tally, does this mean that they get the most of this money?
Right.
That's the way I'm thinking is, okay, I'll just leave.
Well,
I think I put it out there.
But I'll say 2 things, I think this is a really good point. Number one, Jacob is the president of his neighborhood association, which I'm sure helps. And Freddie O'Connell, who's the council member for
Right,
District
run for
19,
mayor.
is also everywhere and probably talking about this a good deal on all of this, forays into the community. But just to assuage your fear about it being downtown where everything is happening, if I'm not mistaken, we are sitting in District 19 right now. Napier is part of District 19, so it ideally, people are coming up with ideas to benefit this community as well. So I'm keeping that hope alive. Obviously, we don't know what the ideas are, but that will help me sleep slightly better at night, yes.
And I just was gonna say, to me, I don't look at it as much as our effort, should be some, but I don't know. To me, it's the trusted partners and the PR firm and who they're reaching out to in the areas. So I would not look at us necessarily. We should help subsidize, or we should, but to me, it's the PR firm and the trusted partners should be driving this number. And if the numbers are low, and then there's the social vulnerability index component as well. I would think the trusted partners would touch more of the areas where there is, so, you know, that was one of the big things with voting with us. So I would hope to see the numbers higher in the social vulnerability areas versus some of the areas that were totally white or whatnot, because I don't think their response might be, to me, I don't look at it as who's representing from this group as much as what's the PR firm doing for us, and where are their efforts, and is it driving the votes in those areas?
Well, let's give Fabian a chance to address that, because you had something to say a little while ago.
Yeah, couple of things. There has been community engagement done by Tiara and me. The PR firm, what it did is started acting on implementing the trusted partner modified version that you guys gave us, and so they actually have been sending to all these trusted partner on the list the job description that you guys put, the scope of work that was required, and that turned off some people, and other people were interested in doing it, and so it's taken a while to get these people to get back with the PR firm. Regarding the social media, that's going to start happening this month, and they're going to be doing it on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram, and we are going to use an established social media handles that they've been around for a while, and they are going to be used for this. The other thing that is going to happen is there's going to be advertisement on the buses. This is something Councilmember Cash suggested. And they're going to start putting these ads on inside the buses so people can scan them and submit.
Do we have the opportunity to push back the end of idea collection?
Well, if you push back the idea collection, that pushes back, limits the amount of time that the budget delegates will have to put together the ballot, and it may push back the election day as well. You know, the answer is yes, you can push it back, but I will wait till the last minute to see if you want to push it back, because if you push it back too early, and then it turns out that the social media and the trusted market things produces enough ideas that you don't have to push it back, then I think once you announce it that you push it back, then has an effect of taking the urgency out of the process. So we've done it in the past where we delayed the deadline for submitting ideas, but I'd rather just that be a fallback thing instead of just planning it.
Good option. Can I ask a quick question? So we're kind of in crunch time, and you know, I think for this last month, what I would love to see is kind of like a dashboard of the districts, you know, where who hasn't, you know, by SVI, who hasn't submitted it, you know, because if it all is all District 19, like, you know, good job Jacob and Freddie and all those guys, right? But if we could, you know, have the marketing firm focus more.
That's part of the plan. Is the
Okay.
social media is going to be retargeted based on the number of ideas
Where
that
the
they're
holes
collecting.
are?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would love
I think
it
it's all
wording.
one big hole right now.
Right.
I don't think 22 is.
Right,
Best
well,
practices.
and that's really ultimately,
Right.
sorry, that's ultimately like what I would like to focus on, and just kind of like some more like live up-to-date reporting for us for this last month, if it is a month, you just so we can kind of see like, oh, we're making a difference, or, oh, for the love of God, you know, we haven't even touched these
Right.
districts, so.
Lindsay, I saw your hand.
Oh,
Sorry,
can
Lindsay.
the social media campaign not start now, since we know the numbers are significantly lower? Maybe I misunderstood that soon, the marketing, they're gonna start with the social media, and it was about promoting this for the ideas. I was just curious, could it not start now? Cause we don't have enough.
Yeah, it is going to start now, it's starting this
Oh.
month.
That's what I thought, I misheard that it
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
in some weeks.
They've been,
Thank you.
yeah, I cannot give you a certain day when they are going to start, but they've been.
No, I really thought, I heard like a month from now.
I'm just
Thank you.
wondering, has there been any concentrated efforts in the schools, for the schools that have children that are 14 and older, that are going to be part of the voting process, as far as getting them engaged and getting ideas solicited from
We
those
did have
students?
community achievers on our list. Fabian, I know you've been to talk to some.
Yeah,
schools.
I think they were the ones that answered yes, I think. But I also reached out to the school board, to the directors, asking them to help us reach out to the schools. And it's been really hard to get, because the principals are the ones in charge in each school. So, you know, even if they get information from the school board, then it's up to the principal to push the information into the students. And I haven't really seen much success on that.
Will we get any sort of update about the budget delegates? What districts have been filled, which districts still need?
I just started following up with everybody that applied. I reached out to all the council members to get them to approve people. I have only got like 5 districts. So I think I did send you guys an email asking for recommendations. I can send you more details saying I need one for your district and that sort of thing.
Isn't that also a June 1 deadline?
Hmm?
Isn't the delegates also a June 1 deadline?
Yeah, the budget delegates are supposed to start on June 1st, but before that I have to provide them a fiscal and legal training, and I also like to talk to each one of them, so I'd like to have my list of budget delegates at least a week or 2 before June 1st.
Sorry, Elizabeth. You have your hand up?
I just had a thought. I think we should be hopeful. There's a month left, and it sounds like stuff is really kicking off. And with people having a deadline of June 1st, I just think we need to be hopeful and like see what happens once this stuff launches. Because I do think a month is a long time for something like this if it's really hit hard. That's all.
I appreciate that word of positivity, thank you. Okay.
On the positive side, I talked to Nashville Noticias, and we ran a little interview, which I wasn't expected.
Did you look good on TV?
No, not really. Because I come to their studio to ask the question when and how, and she's like, there's the chair, so sit down and who you are. And so it was kind of like, you know, I wasn't prepared. But the bright side of that is that a lot of people reach out to me and start asking questions, which I love, because when my community start asking questions, it means that they're gonna act, right? So, I hope I can be a good leader and direct them the right way. And one question that I've been having very often is that they find out very difficult to find a place to click to switch languages.
It's at the bottom right on
I
how.
know, but it's very little.
Yeah.
And, okay, I know.
Let's try and make that button bigger then, please, if we can.
I
Or put it
can-
on top.
So I guess
They're not
I'm
working.
you know,
No, I mean like
That is
seriously,
true.
most websites have
Yeah.
like English, like the
Yeah.
like different flags on the top
On the
right.
top. Wow.
yeah, I don't know, I'm thinking on ways to like include that, instruction when I answer whatever question they have, so. But so far, I've been talking to them, I went to TIRC last night, they have a meeting about climate change, and I take 30 seconds to talk about it. A lot of people was interested in a flyer, and we tried a few times, and it worked perfect, so. Thank you so much.
Let's let's hear from Ramona and then Lindsay, and then I really do wanna try to move forward, just because we do wanna knock these guidelines out.
Okay, so Fabian, so back to the budget delegates. So there are 4 in my district, these individuals are retired. So what happens if you cannot find a budget delegate from my district? What do? What's the default?
Well, like in the case of you guys, there is not a steering committee member for each district. So if there is not somebody for a particular district, I will be disappointed, but it's not going to hurt the process. Somebody else will pick up. What is going to happen is there has to be one ballot item per council district. And you don't need to have a person from that district to push for the ballot item for that district, but it would be better if there was somebody. So like I told you, Ramona, if you can just tell them to go online and apply, that way I can have all their information and verify that they reside in Nashville.
Yeah, one did yesterday, I know that for a fact.
Because we can only have people serving like you guys if they are Nashville residents.
All right, Lindsay?
Is, do you know if reaching out to schools as far as marketing goes, is that something that the marketing firm can do?
Yeah, they actually are working with that school group to reach out through them. I don't think that they can do any better than what I can do, because I actually talked to Han Clay, who's like the second below the superintendent of schools, and I haven't been able to get much success. So we're going to keep on trying, but really the way it is I'm sure you guys know this, if you have teenage kids, somebody has to be there just getting them excited and talking to them and getting them engaged in the process, and the person to do that is the teacher that they're working with. And it's very hard for teachers to do that unless they just really believe in the process. So
Well, I know they've also all been tested too, so that probably doesn't help anybody's capacity. Jason, you had one thing and then we're gonna move forward.
Yeah, sorry,
We
so I
can come
found,
back to this at the end.
I found a secret back door to Metro Nashville schools at least. A few weeks ago at my kids' open house for high school, I connected with the librarian. I've got a meeting next week with all the librarians through Metro Nashville, so it's gonna like totally bypass the principals and get it out there. So I hacked the system.
Nice.
I got
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. All right, thank you for all of that. I think these are really important questions, and I'm glad that we're all kind of on the same page, because I certainly hear a lot of my thoughts echoed in everything everybody said. So thank you everybody for sharing all of that. Let's go ahead and move on. We need to discuss and vote on this. I now know it's called a vision statement. Y'all may have learned, but I'm really bad at remembering what things are called. So this is that opening line of the thingamajobber, of the guidelines, and on Thursday, everybody sort of submitted their thoughts about words and concepts that should be included in that. So I took the beautiful language that Elizabeth and her team in roles and responsibilities has already crafted, and I supplemented it with some of the words that we have been using. Did you get that email from me? Are you able to project that, or should I just read it?
Did you send it today?
I just got a chance to finish it today. I'll go ahead and just read what I wrote, and hopefully everybody can follow. Let me technologically find this information. This is gonna be what kicks off the whole thingamajobber. And no, I don't want to choose a template. There it is. All right, so here's what I did. This is the first couple of lines. The vision statement for the 2023 Metro Nashville Participatory Budgeting Program is: we seek to empower the people of Metro Nashville to envision meaningful projects with long-lasting community impacts via an egalitarian process driven by efficiency, equity, inclusion, and transparency. So that's that first section. Anybody have thoughts? Does it sound like it feels like all of us and what everybody had to say on Thursday?
Can we have this written in plain language? So I don't think a lot of people would probably be familiar with the word egalitarian.
Yeah, I'm about to.
And also, a lot of people will probably not even gonna read it, the people that I'm trying to look out for.
Right.
But I think that's too big of a word.
Okay, we can lose egalitarian. Essentially, that just means
It's
lists all-
the
lists all
perfect
those.
word.
Yeah, but
But
we need a less SAT
I
word.
know what you're saying.
Yeah, cool. Because you're less All right, so
I wouldn't say we seek to, I would say this is the mission, it's not we seek to.
we will,
Just fine tuning, just fine.
so we will say we will impact, well, I wanna get this voted on, so, okay, now it's projected back there.
I think we can just use present tense. We can do, like, it's at the point where it's confirmed. Like, we, the 2023 people do, or like, just present tense.
All right, we will empower the people of Metro Nashville to envision meaningful projects with long-lasting community impact via a collaborative process. Does that work instead of egalitarian? It means something slightly different.
Yeah.
Let's look up synonyms for egalitarian.
Collaboration is a pretty familiar word. I'm sure those in the workforce have.
But I don't know that it necessarily, I don't know that it necessarily captures the idea of this is for everybody, seeking to benefit everybody. Okay, here's the SARS.
Just say that.
I was gonna say the
Just
source of.
what you just
.com
said, it's
egalitarian.
Yeah,
And then equity, inclusion,
Yeah.
driving.
What did I just say?
it's for everybody. Yeah.
Democratic, equitable, even-handed, impartial, just, and unbiased.
I need to roll back
What
the video.
if we say, okay, meaningful projects with long-lasting community impacts via a process for everyone to benefit everyone, driven by.
Believing in the equality of all people.
I'm typing out into the screen.
Cool.
Okay, so there, now it says that.
I can say that here.
The vision statement of the 2023 Metro Nashville Participatory Budgeting Program is we will empower the people of Metro Nashville to envision meaningful projects with long-lasting community impacts via a process for all people designed to benefit all people, driven by efficiency, equity, inclusion, and transparency.
We got it.
So we just need to do all caps in the word all. If we're trying
Saying
to take
all
out
people over and over again.
Well, I mean, we're saying it over.
I put some italics in there, does that help?
Yeah, sure.
Just that I asked you about.
For all people, designed to benefit all people,
Well, replacing via with just with.
Yeah.
with a process. Okay. From a regular language standpoint, Lindsay, how's it look now?
I mean, there's an awesome comment in there. And
Would you like it to
I
have
don't
an
like it,
Oxford
but
I
also,
would.
there's
Yeah.
like
Okay, that was Elizabeth.
there's 4 words. Like, I could just like, could we, I thought there was another E word that always went with equity. Oh, maybe not. Oh, it's probably equality.
Here's what I wrote down from from the meeting on Thursday. Inclusivity, egalitarian, honoring many voices, meaningful and long-lasting impact, practicality, fair, cost-effective, transformative, everybody is gonna win, from which I took egalitarian, empowering people to get engaged, transparency, unique to Nashville, maximizes participation, transparency, and transactional politics. That was the accumulation of those plots. And then, for the record, I've got down at the bottom of this document, I did throw in the word transformative in the last sentence, so now we're driving positive, practical, transformative improvements to ensure that we include that word.
Yeah, and I had in the notes, in the minutes
Yes,
from
ma'am.
Thursday, everything that everybody was saying as we were on that call, I was typing those out. So I included those in the minutes.
You're better than I am at taking notes. I just write down one word, you write full sentences, because you're delightful.
So in there is, like you said, I mean, fair, cost-effective, transformative, so everyone wins, that was one comment by someone. Unique to Nashville, no idea is a bad idea. You know, these were all things that were thrown out when we were talking, when we were all just brainstorming on Thursday.
So let's go, Quentin, can we go back up to the top? Thank you. So is the feeling that those 4 words at the end are I did, you had efficiency in there originally.
But,
You had the word efficiency in there originally. I cut one of your words, which was clarity, but I didn't want to cut all of your words. But if we're worried that it's too wordy and you're not married to effective or efficiency, then we could just zap that out.
I'm not married to efficiency.
I don't feel that we've been necessarily efficient. It's my fault, I'm the chair of this. Talking about the show. Okay, so now.
Efficiency is describing a different sort of process, whereas equity, inclusion, transparency is really of importance to people.
Yeah.
Efficiency isn't.
Right,
I think the ends are more important than the means.
okay.
I think it should say the vision statement, blah, 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 is to empower the people, not is we will empower the people.
Okay, we had, that colon was there originally, so I kept the original structure. And, no. Okay,
I might,
Elizabeth,
that second width is really disruptive.
that was where we had via.
Exactly, so I think we need,
Should we go back to via?
maybe just like to empower people, projects, law plus community impacts.
Just
Just
for all
by
people.
designing a process for all, like,
One
because it
last thing,
switches
community.
the
Yeah.
vision is to do this, and then there's a how we're gonna do it, that's all.
How about by implementing a process for all people?
Yeah, you go, you're. That just makes sense.
What about enacting?
Enacting over implementing?
Yeah, as
I
long
was
as
there.
it's that structure, whatever word you desire.
We could also say Nashvillians rather than the people of Metro Nashville.
We can.
The community.
I think it was using Metro Nashville because that was in keeping with the way most of this was designed, Metro Nashville, Davidson County.
We don't want somebody who lives.
Yeah, but are we?
We don't want someone who lives in Goodlettsville.
Maybe just add community.
The people of the Metro Nashville community.
I do like that it's people rather than community because that implies not people. It implies organizations. It implies like.
Should we say
entities.
Davidson County instead?
I'm okay with Davidson County.
What's on the police vehicles? Put that. Everyone's probably familiar with that. Because it says Metro something up there, right?
Lock them up.
I think
gonna put you out.
people is known, but
It seems like that's captured.
What? You all got jokes today.
Like that captured. Surely you can have Carol do some wordsmithing if it gets cluttered.
Right. If possible, I'd like to vote to adopt this top part, but only if people feel like it's close enough.
Love it.
Carol, you are our wordsmith, but how does it look to you, Madam Secretary?
I'm fine with it.
All right, anybody else?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve, I hear a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of adopting this vision statement, including the word transformative in the last sentence, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Sweet.
Did it.
All right, that's done. Moving on. It is time to go through each and every one of our beautiful sections, and look, I'm gonna read them straight out of the handbook so I stop getting them wrong. First up, roles and responsibilities.
We were waiting on feedback, and I think we have a clean version. It's out tomorrow.
Right, so can we look at them and approve them?
Sure.
I just
Yeah.
have a procedure. So even though we voted on this, say, we're all looking at it now, but it's time to put this on the website or to print and there's something grammatically wrong or something needs to be changed, do we have to vote on that again, or can that just be corrected?
We might be able to vote on nominating one person to get all grammatical corrections. You can put it out.
Well, this got it.
I was just.
surely if something doesn't change this, the meaning, that it can just be.
Like A and we
Yeah.
caught that, but
Right.
does that really require a vote to do a
Would you
misspelled word
like to
type of
make a
thing?
motion that we nominate someone, for example, Carol, to receive feedback of that sort?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something too
No,
much
because
pressure.
I'm already going, so that everybody knows, I'm already gonna be taking all of your sections, once we've vetted them, putting together in a final version, accepting all of your track changes and whatnot. I will do the formatting, I will do like little grammatical nits, I'm not going to change, what you had. And then the final version will be presented to everybody for final adoption.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I hear a motion
Second.
for Carol and a
Yes.
second. Any discussion?
Appreciate that.
All those in favor of having Carol do all that stuff she just said? Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Carol's filed voted. She saw a motion to reconsider.
The only thing I'm gonna put on the record is that Carol's awesome.
All right, well then, Elizabeth, take it away on your clean version here.
Yeah, it's a little long, but, we've already gone through the vision statement.
There's no way to get the projector closer, or like the
Oh, the
screen.
You might be able to, on the right bottom, maybe that 100%.
There's a slider there.
Yeah, there's a slide
On
on
the right side.
right corner, right there. Right
The right arm,
right next,
the right.
go to the right.
Further to the right.
There it is.
Yeah,
Pull
yeah.
that, drag that thing to the right.
Everybody all at once.
That-
And then there's a scroll bar on the center, we can move from to center it to the right just a little bit. There we go, there we go.
Nice.
Say this, I think that there's still red, it may not be the one, I did send you one that did not have any red on it, but I think this is probably.
That's right, so what is in red is what we added.
Oh, that's.
This is fine, this is fine.
The biggest thing that we did at the beginning is we, in light of how the steering committee process has gone, like the good, bad, good, all the things, we decided to, put into writing, just some general, very plain language about what the different roles are. Because we found that we had thousands of questions about how the different pieces fit together. And we weren't really sure what we were doing, what the budget delegates were doing, and so we tried to just add a section, even though it makes it lengthier. That section really just spells out the role, and that's it. Like, here's what Metro National community members are doing, here's what the steering committee's doing, here's what the budget delegates are doing. We also did add a section, not to change anything, but just to put it in writing, that we do have these, third-party vendors is how I put it, I think, in there. But the idea being that there's this thing that's already out there that just wasn't in the guidelines. It doesn't help, it's not to help us, it's to help the future, steering committees, right? And so with the roles, the first one is, it's just this overview right here. And at the top, a little bit further up, thank you so much. I basically put in very plain language, this is meant to help future us, okay? The first one, the first paragraph, just talks about how this is created, and it has some general language. And if you're new to this and you're stepping in as a new steering committee member, this is what it would be. Next one with the funding overview, we just talk about the comes from a grant. And then we do reference them, just to be really clear, that if there is some sort of conflict or ambiguity, go see the actual subsection, the proposals themselves, just to make sure that's clear. The next section is where we have Lindsay's awesome input, and Veronica's awesome input about community members. I did have a couple of resident language still in there that I cleaned up in the clean version. But essentially what we're saying is, look, this is what the community members can do. They can all submit proposals, and all vote, all right? And then we have voting sections referenced to kind of drill down on that. What's up?
Does it need to have the age limit in this section?
I don't think so, because this is so general that it's really just if someone's reading it, I don't want to put too much detail in there. Or that was the thought behind it. But I mean, I'm all ears. The idea is if someone's just coming to this for the first time, that they could just run through. And then they can say, oh, I had a question about ages. Then that would be voting. And that would be proposals.
And we don't know in the next cycle if there's going So that's why we kind of left that hands off.
Okay, I love that you brought that up though, because that was the main thing that kind of prompted this whole section, which again, doesn't really have bearing on the rules. It's really just meant to a point, because those are the questions we had, right? So, I think that's a really good. And then, national government, and then we basically say, council creates they create this program by adopting the legislation, right? And then we have the mayor's office, staff and facilitators, so, just talking about the various roles, that the mayor's office staff, that they're responsible for certain things, and then I think it's underneath staff, that we did add this third-party contract. I think the language in the clean version is actually a little different. But I just wanted to point out that there is this other piece. Now, there's a whole compliance piece that is a part of the federal grant, but we spent so much time talking about it that I thought it would be nice to put it in there just to be clear for the next group.
Another question,
Yeah.
sorry to keep interrupting, but since this is for future reps, I think based on some of the conversations that we had, even just at the top of today's meeting, there might be a question about that third-party contractor hiring process and whether the steering committee should be or should not be involved in it, when in the process it should happen.
Stay tuned. Yeah, but that is another component, I think, by putting in the guidelines, then you're putting it front and center to say, these are the decisions you're making, steering committee.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna start just writing down my questions because you'll probably have answered them.
Well, maybe not.
I don't know.
Okay, and then I thought this was key. What's our job? Right, we're drafting, guys. We're drafting the guidelines. And then we provide oversight, because that's the other piece that we don't talk about as much, right? Is that we do have oversight, and that was a question. How many times did I ask him? I think it was 10, 20 times about the oversight piece. I just wasn't getting it, right?
Bless you.
All right, and then I really liked it. This actually really helped me when Ms. Martin said this, and maybe it's because I think we've got a bunch of lawyers as well, right? When she said separation of powers, I was like, that's it. And so we have sort of a quasi-legislative, quasi-judicial, and then Metro as the executive. That really helped me. Maybe it wouldn't help. It just helps two of us. That's enough, right? And so I did put that in there. And then what Ms. Martin pointed out too, and this is something that actually is decision-making that we're making, is she suggested, a great suggestion, that we're real clear about like the bounds of the different things we're doing, that there is a whole budget delegate process, and they need to have their own sort of independent decision-making. They're having to make these decisions. They need the room and the creativity. I know we got into that in the proposal development, or excuse me, in the budget delegate section, but I did want to put that in there because it's so helpful to me personally. I think that's helpful to you, Gary, right? Separation of powers. Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, sure. But,
I just haven't been to law school.
what's that?
I haven't been to law school though.
No, but.
She said good for you.
All right, so then we get into the actual, meat of what was already in there. And we didn't make too terribly new changes. It was really more filling in the cross-references between the sections. And then we did reorder. So that was the only ripping up that really occurred, is that we did reorder just to track how that overview went. Does anybody have any questions about the overview, why we did it, why it's in there? Anybody have big problems with it?
I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah, it's very helpful. It educates you. It's a nice recap to kind of let everybody know.
I mean, if anything, this should be like the one pager that's in the budget delegates, just have an overview of what they're trying to.
That's what you're coming into.
Nice job.
And this is how we got here.
Our attorney has done it again, ladies and gentlemen.
I would love a social studies style graphic that looks like the separation of powers thing. I know, seriously, like I think like that would be really helpful.
Yeah, just to say like, here's the little.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, sorry.
I am the middle. No, you're right. We can do a little.
Some people in the
Cartoon
business
of
don't know
it's
what
a
I'm talking
camera,
about,
man.
and get to work.
Well, the graphic is still in there. I thought that graphic that we received, that was really helpful.
Yeah.
So next, we just talked about, this is again with, we talked about community members last time, so I don't think we need to go through it again. But I tried to eliminate the reference to the word resident just to be more inclusive and then to reflect all of knowing that for the eligibility to serve on the steering committee, et cetera, there is actually a requirement for, being and living in a certain place. And so we do have that still retained in our also made the point, I think we talked about it as well, that, we can't like be the main representative of or start like, having an agenda to benefit ourselves personally or to benefit our company personally or whatever it is. We can absolutely submit project ideas and vote. And so I did want to put that in there because I think it's important.
Have we ever differentiated what it means to, I think at some point the document refers to lead an idea versus submit an idea. Have we ever defined?
So
what that
submission
means?
versus, that language looks like, that's a really good question.
Because
that's,
I was kind of like, this is like, if I have an idea and I'm talking about it
Yeah.
here, it sounds like I'm leading the idea, right? So-
it
Would
looks,
that be the problem of the proposal development squad?
I think the idea is, because it's the same language that was tracked, and it looks like perhaps Metro Legal put that little clause in there underneath each section, I don't know.
Right.
But it looks like it's more about.
Which I would agree with.
Yeah,
right?
having an agenda.
Right.
And I think we can still submit, but that we can't have an agenda, so if you want language that kind of reflects more.
I'm not sure what that language would be. I'm just thinking that it needs to be defined further, probably, because I personally have felt myself be on a gray line when I've talked about, like, even as a tool of explaining a change that I've made in my section.
Sure.
Say, like, say there's an idea for, we said tennis courts, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I thought we all agreed to just use pickleball.
Yeah, as
Right.
the punching bag.
Right.
Well, maybe, so the language, maybe this is not, we could copy the language that's in the other sections, so maybe we could pay attention to what's in those, because the idea, I believe, is that you can't have a personal benefit, right? And that you can't have a benefit benefits you personally, or something that you have a stake in personally. I do think that's managed in other sections, but I think it's a good.
But that's different than leading an idea.
Right, right.
Which it, throughout the document says cannot. lead
Cannot
an idea.
initiate it, yeah.
Right.
Right,
So submitting idea, I think we've all said it's fine.
right.
But then where's the crowbar between that and leading an idea? So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the idea is that second sentence, from which, he or she will receive a personal financial benefit, right? That's my take on it. Do you have?
You got it. I mean, you may not push for an idea that you submitted. You can submit it, but then you cannot come into the meeting and start pushing for your idea, because that will be leading your idea to become an actual project.
Right.
Or a budget delegate that submit an idea may not lead that idea into becoming a project or a ballot item. So it's a good distinction, but I thought it was self-explanatory. But if you guys want to make it more clear, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think it is later on in the document too. Do you want to look at how it was phrased later on in the document, see if you like it better?
Well, I've seen other ones, I think it's just a question about what is the process? So like if I'm a budget delegate and I've submitted an idea and the idea comes up, I think there's various ways of saying I've recused myself of this discussion, or what do we want, what is the above board way to handle situations where your ideas can be discussed?
Well, one thing is that this is taking place in a committee.
Right.
And it seems like, because it is a matter of interpretation, what exactly does that mean? If all the committee members recognize that this is crossing that line, or something like that.
Or maybe one thing that we could do is we could all disclose the ideas that we've submitted as part of it. Like,
Be judged.
right, but I'm just trying to say, like, if I am on Metro Council and my workplace is with a realtor and I'm doing zoning,
Right.
I feel like that should be known. I think similarly, like if steering committee people submit ideas or budgetary people do, that should be known. I'm not sure at what process or what point in the process that should
I
be
don't know
known.
how
but,
much
like,
control steering committee has over the individual ideas. I definitely think it needs to be mentioned.
I was just saying, like, all the people here that we've mentioned, like, if Metro staff submit ideas, if steering committee submit ideas, if budgetary people submit ideas, it should all be said.
I always look at the Washington Post test, like if this was to be revealed on the front page of the Washington Post, would that make you uncomfortable? And if we didn't have transparency and disclosure, and it just so happens that somebody
Right.
on the steering committee's decision was chosen and we didn't disclose that prior to, it looked really bad, so.
Or if like every single meeting that I'm in, I repeatedly say, and this was the idea that I submitted, first of all, it's annoying every time,
Yeah,
but also
okay.
just like, we can all.
Absolutely understood, attorney.
Well, by thought, hey, she's one too, so we gotta pick on both.
Sorry.
So doesn't this sound like a conflict of interest type situation? It sounds like what you're wanting
Right.
is a COI type thing, but it really does seem like it resides more with, the budget delegates, the examples you're giving. But if you're wanting it to be more like COI, I think that could definitely be something I can draft up and put as a little addendum. What do you want?
I do think the budget delegates would be most vulnerable to that,
Yeah.
but I do
You
think,
still want it.
I think it would probably, I would advocate for
Okay.
all people should make it.
Absolutely heard. David.
So when we submit ideas, they get a tracking number, correct? So is it possible to go to the tracking report to see if I've submitted a suggestion.
Right.
So we can just go back and pull the numbers from the tracking report, you can see which one of us submitted which idea.
And then how should, in your opinion, how should that be handled? Should you then disclose that you did that? I think that's the
Yes.
conversation.
But
Okay.
it's like I said, as long as I don't come here and.
And find it.
Right.
Yeah,
Put the
okay.
banner,
That
barrel.
was my question. I wasn't sure if we knew the information of those who submitted the idea. So if your name is on the idea, then we know it was you. So, I just don't know that part of the process.
Okay.
Because the danger is also the inverse effect of that, about now that my name is on it, and if you all respect me, you might give my idea more credence. Just by, well, I'm just saying, like, there's a, not me specifically, but one.
It's just what
Yeah.
delegates are gonna select, you put on the ballot anyway, so.
Right.
But do we know the information where the idea came from? We'll know the district, but we'll know that it's shared openly the person as
Chair.
well.
Okay, Fabian.
So I usually remove the names and
Okay.
phone numbers and emails of the people that submit an idea to protect their privacy, and I only publish the idea and the location and all the other information. And my advice to you all will be to put it on the budget delegate to voluntarily not to advocate for ideas that they may have submitted. That's how we do it in the council. It's like you basically don't vote on something that you think that you may have an interest.
To me, if it creates all these issues and lots of work, do not submit the As a member of this committee,
You can't participate in some sweepstakes if you are an employee or your family member is, or that's some of the fine print, so.
That's certainly the most elegant solution, is then just find somebody else to submit your idea for you. Elizabeth.
I just want to put out there that there is a well-worn path of conflict of interest language that people have drafted over the years. There are lots of examples, and I'm sure that if I Googled it, I would come up with like 3 in a flash that would be acceptable. So do you mind if we try to do that?
Don't
No,
mind.
that would be great.
It sounds like there's an
Yeah.
appetite for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
An appetite for it, I love it. Yeah.
Head on through.
Oh, let's scroll. Let's keep scrolling.
Let's scroll.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Very
you.
graphic, we all seen the graphic. All right. Let's see, and then I just talked about the neutrality of the support. There are a couple of things, there was a lot of language in here that I think is reflective of how Mr. Bennett and Ms. Martin have done a fantastic job with making sure that we feel empowered to put what we need to put in these guidelines, and they say it every single time. And so I wanted to put that in there. So I think that's super important, because we may not be so lucky next time, right? So we're empowered to do it, they're protecting our autonomy and decision-making power, which is really, really important. And their goal is to assist us with effectuating the process, right? We're trying to get it done. They're not trying to guide us or push us one way or the other. So that's all that is. I did just rework this because the verbs and things were weird. It was almost like we were telling Metro Council what to do, so I just reworked the language that we can't do that. Instead, we are saying that that's what their role is. Right, because it was weird, the language was like, Metro Council will vote to approve this, so they will vote, and that's just not. I did also, and this is something I want to make sure, that Metro Council they have the power to allocate the funds and basically give the mayor's office staff designee the capability to take this portion of administrative funding. Again, that was just something that we know, but maybe the next committee would like to know up front, so it could just bypass that confusion. Alrighty, and they do vote, the Metro Council does vote, which is what Ms. Martin has been asking about. Let's see, and then I did want to make sure we had this right, so please help me, Ms. Martin and Mr. Andre, on voting on the approval of the fully eligible proposals after we have the vote. Is that right, that Metro Council votes to approve them, or is that not?
The council already approved the funding, so
Okay.
they already delegated on you to decide this. Now, some items will go back to the council if it's required by, like on parks, for example, or if a property has to be purchased, there is something on the charter requires them to vote on it. But not on everything that will be required to vote, so.
So after the ballot, we have the ballot, and then the community votes on the ballot, and we have these projects, it's go, they don't have to vote again?
Not on everything. On some of those things they may, like, let's say one of the items is to provide a grant to a non-profit, they will have to vote on that.
Okay.
Because it's required by charter. But if one of the items is to fund the playground on a park, they don't have to vote on it.
Okay, so maybe as necessary.
Tweak that to like, or yeah, or on applicable proposals or something like that.
As required.
Yeah.
As necessary.
Yeah, we'll do it as necessary then on the approval of the, yes, I think at the end of that. Yeah, or wherever you can put it, it's great. The other thing that I put in there in the red is just, sort of this chicken and the egg thing that we're voting to approve these guidelines, but they kind of exist before we get there because we're appointed and pulled in, and then we get here and start working on this draft. So I'm just putting that in there because that confused me. I think it may have confused other people too. How did we get here? Where did these guidelines come from? Okay, let's roll. Really moving through here.
So, I've got your edit pulled up on here,
The last one, do you want to go through that one
Well,
instead?
it's in this section, I think.
Yes.
It's under administrative support and expenses, you got that one highlighted.
Is that the third party thing?
Solicit and incorporate input from steering committee and budget delegates about how the money is spent.
So that one is the one that is really, because of all the discussion we had about the administrative part, because frankly, like, that just has to happen, right? Like, we have to be able to have some money spent, and that is, the funding goes to the mayor's office staff designee, and that's just the way it is, right? We're all volunteers, and we don't have time to go hire PR firms and whatnot. So I tried to put that in there, but I also was trying to reflect what is already happening, which is you're soliciting our input, and you're wanting to know what we think, and you're also very willing upon request to provide reports back. So I tried to put that in there. Again, just sort of that check and balance, that even though we don't have the power of the purse, so to speak, we certainly do have the power to request reports, and that there is a solicitation of input. But I didn't want to go so far as to say, and we're going to vote on this, or we have veto, that's not right. That's not, we don't have access to that decision making. So that's all I put. Cool. I'll keep going on this, because I do think I have yeah, I think so. So that's the one. Yeah. Okay, so the account for expenditures, that's not something that we're doing, like, it's already required per the grant. So again, it's just building in that the transparency is there and putting that into place so that the future steering committees know that there is an account there. This might be wrong, but we took a crack at it. And I just said, like, as repeatedly stated, like, the goal of this whole process, right, is empowering the community to make decisions about how this money is being spent. Like, that's the goal, right? And it's this beautiful process. But we're all entity volunteers, right? And so it's necessary for you to do this work and to engage with third-party partners. And then I also did pull out specifically timing issue, right? That we get dropped into this little committee kind of sometimes in media race, right? So something might need to already be in place before we're in place. So I just was reflecting the experience there. But I wanted to make sure everybody's cool with that, because that was a change that didn't exist. What's up?
Again, based on, I think, some comments that we've heard today and previous, I wonder if there's a way to, number one, perhaps acknowledge that the timeline in which these people were needed to be hired on such a fast pace without consultation with this group is a construct purely of this cycle and wouldn't necessarily apply to future cycles wherein there may be more time without the ARP deadline looming in the future.
So saying like it's not, this can happen, but it's not necessary.
Right, and I think if we're not going to be able to so strongly say that the steering committee should have, you know, consent or veto power over outside contractors who get hired, I wonder if it is worth putting in something about how we strive for the outside contractors to look at the communities that we're trying to serve or something like that. I've heard from a couple of people after the last meeting who had concerns that there was certainly a way to empower a non-white male-owned PR firm in this, but they maybe don't have that relationship with Metro. Maybe they weren't able to apply in time, and I don't know if that's a consideration we want to work in with some open-ended language or not.
And I don't know that we would even have the power to do such a thing, I guess. Because I'm thinking that the money is, Metro Council says, here, you have this money, you need to make these decisions. Like, I'm on board with the timing thing, but maybe what we could do is try something and then Metro Legal, and flag it for Metro Legal and highlight it and say, we're not sure if we can do this.
I mean, is it like we strongly?
We really cannot legally do that. The state prevents us from doing something like that, but you can make it that there should be a commitment or a push to do that. I mean.
Right, so we can encourage, but we
Yes.
can't.
And I would say, because I sat in on some budgetary meeting stuff, there's an equity officer, right, in Metro Nashville that works with departments to shape policy to be more equitable.
Right.
And we could probably say we will coordinate with the equity officers.
Yeah, and I also don't want to constrained by who had pre-existing relationships with Metro in terms of whatever you call vendors or whatever, so, you know.
And I would assume that role is probably limited to the current mayor thing, but.
Those were two thoughts for this section.
Do you guys want to put anything in there, so the second paragraph.
Yeah, that was working good.
Basically, that Mr. Bentley got started early, right?
Right.
They made it request for
So then after that sentence, we put, in that case, they strongly encourage that. Then, I don't know, I'm not.
I sort of saw that, like, that there was more of a dividing line.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe. And are you tracking this, because I know like mine that I just sent out last week.
I've got the one that you sent that's dated 4/29/2023.
Okay, sweet, thank you. It doesn't have red, and so it's bothering me, I'm wondering, like.
I'm not married to it at all.
I like having it in here, I will say, because I do think
Yeah.
it answers a lot of questions. I do think the may necessitate language is strong enough to accommodate the fact that it's not.
The timing could
Yeah,
change.
I do think the
Okay.
timing is accommodated.
Cool. Ignores me.
These are the questions, that's the primary question I had really, is about this.
I mean, do we want to?
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I knew there was something different in that top one, so I'm
The
glad.
only thing I would say is throwing in maybe one line that just says, steering, you know, we encourage any third-party vendors to have an equal commitment to the principles outlined in the vision statement.
I mean, I think the idea, yeah, we could say that, you know, I'm thinking insofar as much as possible, which is very wordy. Oh.
We could say rather than as repeated, as said repeatedly here, and as alignment with the vision statement, right there.
I don't know. Which part?
The very first line that's up there, as repeatedly stated herein, we could say in alignment with the vision statement. Which would.
Yeah,
talked about this maybe 4 meetings ago about accountability process for the third party thing. I assume that's not in the section. Or...
It's not, because I don't think that we really have that.
Which is like an after the fact assessment.
Right.
We will be providing that so that it could be then reviewed in the
Yes.
acquisition of the new
Yes,
program.
yes. That is sort of squishy in terms of the reference later. I think it's just that we're gonna like give feedback on the process, but I don't think it's feedback on that particular component, so that'd be a good thing to put in that section.
We
Should we
could
say
maybe
submit
bullet-
reasonable request regarding how these paid third-party partners are using grant funds, comma, or semicolon, the steering committee will also, in the future, submit, is encouraged to submit feedback at the end of the process as to the.
I think there is a feedback at end of process later on in the committee, which is what I was referencing, so I think it would fit there. But I like that too, I mean, that's a really good.
Yeah, thanks for
I
bringing
didn't
that
think
back.
about that. You ready to scroll? Scroll section is so long. Are you guys asleep yet?
Yes.
Okay. So I basically just right here, sort of the same type of language as with the staff. I know that we've all benefited greatly from facilitation, and just reiterating it's a neutral position, and that they help, they don't advocate for projects, and that they provide advice. So it's sort of more general. I also put too, like, that there's a lot of wisdom about how things have functioned in the past, which is great. But the decision-making power resides with the community groups. So I just wanted to come back to that empowerment piece. We also changed a little bit where basically the facilitator is not necessarily the person taking notes. The secretary is the default first, and then that's what we're doing. Very limited. And then right here, the facilitator can report progress of the budget delegate size. Keep going, all that's the same. I just added that the staff supports the steering committee and budget delegates, because that's been our experience. And then we did have just a catch-all, because it seems like it was just, we felt like it. All right, and then the liaisons, we haven't really touched on that much, but we just asked a bunch of questions and put, basically that we have these liaisons available. And there's that language again, may not initiate, be the main representative, or participate in projects, from which there's going to be.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of every little.
So it's kind of like that little disclaimer, and that's
Yeah,
where we can get the
like,
COI.
Right, and maybe we need to add, may vote and submit ideas, but may not.
Yeah.
Like, just have that be consistent throughout whatever language we come up with.
Let me make a little note. So we're going to COI, and then that's in the general, but I agree with you, it should probably be. How are we doing on time? Is everybody still cool? All right, I think we're pretty close. So this is the part where I'm pretty sure my last draft is a little teeny bit different.
Yeah, that composition.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I remember of it, and Gary can tell me if I'm wrong. But this first part, basically, I just thought I didn't know what we were doing at first. And so I said, the deliverable is a draft, right? That's what we're doing, we're revising. And then we submit it to Metro Legal, and then there's the vote of the consent agenda. And then basically, I put in there what we had discussed is the strong preference for amendment existing, so that we can just promote efficiency, right? Please don't reinvent the wheel. There are reasons that these things are in there. On composition, this is where I still have that parentheses language. What I did was, I basically, wherever you see the word residents, I said, these members shall be community members living in the program area.
Okay.
So I just changed it to that. I started getting antsy about primary addresses. I don't think that's necessary. I just had it in there just in case anybody really wanted to drill down on that, because I do think we need a living requirement.
Can we
for
say
support.
reside instead of live? I'm thinking again of our friends in the community experiencing homelessness, where they're
Is
using,
living, so
where they're
it'd be
using
less
a
sensitive
contributor
term.
office, for example. They're not living there, but they are spending a lot of time there.
But I think for this, I think this is where it was a little different, that to serve on the steering committee, I don't know what needs to be done. But I think in terms of eligibility to serve on the committee, do we want to be more specific? Do we want to be more drilled down to someone who does reside in an area? That's what I thought we had discussed, but totally open.
My understanding was reside is less restricted.
That's what you guys do.
And I would love to have someone who with a lived experience of homelessness on this
committee,
Yeah.
that would be
So
badass.
that's up to you guys, I just wanted you to know that the resident is out.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I would love to change the use to the zone, if you'd be open to that.
I feel it.
Like I said, this was such a blind spot for me, so I'm so glad to be educated on it, and that is whatever you guys think.
Would that be primarily reside? Rather than reside? I'm not sure what the,
Let's just say that.
that's fine.
Cool.
We're almost there. Can
I
we do
believe
this?
in you. You got this.
Y'all are doing great.
I'm gonna pull that page here, I'm gonna pull that paragraph then into the Cleveland one today. So I'll ask you for that. So, page 3. While Gary's typing, guess what? I also think we should have lettering and numbering because it's driving me nuts.
Into it.
So,
Cool.
These members shall be community members living in the program area. Living in the program area means someone who resides within the Metro Nashville Davidson County boundary for a majority of the calendar year.
Feels good to me.
What if someone just moved here?
Get out.
Well, they will be residing here for a majority
I
of
was
the
gonna say,
calendar
so you are in California? Out.
But I'm serious though, like that's a whole. So if someone just moved
It
here,
is.
they would not be allowed to.
It is,
Do we, is that intentional?
it is. But I also don't wanna impose my will upon, or our will on someone else.
Yeah, and it feels like if this is up to the discretion of the council member, and the council member feels that someone is not sufficiently invested within their community, they're unlikely to nominate them in the first place, right?
Yeah, so this is very much focused on the steering
She had
committee.
a few
I think I'm that part to the Metro Nashville Davidson County, I looked it up, it is on the car. There was an area that when we were talking about that, if maybe it can just be uniform. I actually like that because
You
it's
like
covering,
that?
yeah.
I'll make
Yeah.
it for you.
I don't know where it was, but it was up there somewhere, like
You're
at the
right.
top.
So just uniform changes.
Yeah, that's it,
Yeah,
that's it.
sweet. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Scrolling.
Scroll, let's do this. Move it.
So much scroll.
So much scroll. Oh yeah, so the executive committee, so you three, the only thing we took out, there was like a review of participation that was pretty aggressive, so we took that out and just said we're recording attendance. We're not reviewing performance here. I'm gonna scroll down. Right here, basically that just is the recording minutes thing, that we have Carol recording them, we think that's a good thing, she can always delegate it if she wants to. And then basically you guys are also sort of capturing more of what is happening with this cycle, that you're making sure that we're voting on the minutes and you're sort of running the voting process. There's a voting section there, so too. And then there's a resignation thing that's pretty much the same, except I think you scroll up just for a second. Steering committee shall be notified and shall conduct an election for the next scheduled in person. That language was just a little messy, so it seems like that. Okay. We also just added that their open meetings, notices are published. We took this straight from, I hope I said it right, it's not in here, but that virtual meetings are permissible, but no voting can take place, because that was another thing that we now know, but we didn't know. And that members of the public can attend and speak during the meetings. And again, I just say the primary job is to do the revisions. Here's the guideline stuff, this is all the same, I think, we may have sort of fiddled with, verbs and different types of grammar. We also put in a refrain from interfering with the budget decision-making during projects, except insofar as necessary to clarify the guidelines, that's separation of powers thing. We do have oversight though built in, again, what Mark was talking about last time, which is that there is this overages thing, so if there's a pot of money left, that does come back to us for decision. Okay.
Which we addressed in our.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Right here, I don't really, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. We just wanted to have the fact that we have these meetings, we have a motion, and you do that seamlessly. So yes, and a second, and a vote, and then we try to be very collaborative in our voting. It's not some big formal thing. If we need a formal vote, though, I did, Carol, you were the mastermind here with the quorum and the majority of a quorum stuff. It's just making sure there are enough people here to have a vote that's representative and to have enough of a vote where you have most people agree. That's all it is. And then this is Jason. If she's not here, you got the power. That's what that means. The vice chair can conduct a formal vote. Here on the last formal vote of the. That's right. This is the spirit of the attendance. Let's see. I just moved that language to excuse absences. It was hanging out by itself. I'm gonna keep scrolling. Look at that. That's all the same. Okay. This is where we put it. Basically, we don't want somebody to join the group in the middle of revising the guidelines. Unless there's some natural entry point, we have some other part of the process where there's maybe some huge amount of money we need to decide upon spending, or there's a community engagement piece, like in a different cycle that's removed, and we want to fill that, great. But that's where we just put that language in, it's mostly for next year, so that they can think about those things. Alrighty. The budget delegate stuff, I just wanted to, because it was confusing to me personally, and because the next steering committee might find it confusing, I just put in more of an explanation as to what they do. So what do they do? Let me read it. Okay. That we still have sort of an appointment of the budget delegates. So again, that was a question we all had, right? That we have this sort of outside appointment. It's not our decision to pull and decide upon, but those are. And that what the budget delegates are doing generally is they look at these guidelines, and of course there are other materials, to decide what's eligible and how are we going to apply these parameters for prioritized projects. Don't get into it specifically here, but again, this is just to educate the steering committee. I did put this in because I thought this was something that Ms. Martin had told me that really helped. That the project ideas are going to be these seeds of ideas, right? They're sort of abstract as submitted, and that the budget delegates are kind of building out, these proposals that are actionable. And that was something that didn't make sense to me. So I put that in there, and that they were meant to staff to, kind of tease out eligibility and the development of the project. Okay, let's scroll. And then that was just reworking grammar, I do believe. Let's see. That residency language can come out. I have that cleaned up where it says residents and stakeholders. I did put community members there. Yeah, and I have it in the cleaned up, so you're good back there. And then they also have a contingency group responsibility there. That's it. Is that the end of it? Oh my gosh. I did have roles and responsibility. I mean, rocked it.
Those are just
pages.
No.
We're a lot
Not a lot of
of pages.
pages and a lot of nonsense. All right, we are getting extremely short on time.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything absolutely crucial that they would like to bring up for this section, or do we feel okay while moving on to the next? See some nodding and moving and not a lot of talking or hands raised. Let's move on. Our next section, I see it's eligibility and selection there. The next section is technically community engagement. And this is, we went over this in a meeting, and the only thing that got really adjusted and added post that meeting was the trusted community partners section, which is down at the bottom, kind of outlining and defining that program. And that was what y'all had voted on, to trust the community engagement subcommittee in terms of whatever these issues. So it basically lines up with exactly what we talked about. I'm happy to go through it if you would like me to, but it's essentially the exact same thing that was presented, just with our stipulations for what they need to do to get these things.
Question, Chair.
Yeah.
Did you guys adopted her, the one that you just reviewed?
No,
Are you going to wait till the end to
I was
adopt?
gonna, if possible.
I'm just asking
Yeah,
for the record.
I was just gonna wait till the end.
Thanks.
In case somebody has in case somebody has something in the back of their head.
Just check it.
So, thoughts, comments, questions about community engagement?
Still looks good.
Okay, still looks good, sweet. Last call for thoughts, comments, questions,
questions on community engagement? Hearing none. Now it is time for eligibility and selection, which I'm just now noticing has been spelled incorrectly this entire.
Is this piece of paper on the wall your notice board or your? I just noticed it.
I just did too.
You don't wanna see what's underneath it.
Yeah.
All right, I believe, is this the Tyler Brasher subcommittee?
This is, Michael Jones is our
Oh.
chair. So it looks like it's just Kenyatta and I here today. So I would like to make a motion, since it's a team concept, that we defer ours until we meet next, even though I think we have a blueprint of where we want to go.
Okay.
But without the vice chair being here, I think we need to defer so we can all get back together as a group. Kenyatta, what do you think?
Well, I'm feeling guilty because I was also out there on Wednesday, because I showed up on Thursday, despite everyone. So, I thought that we were almost resolved and that the only thing that was pending was the amounts. So was that resolved on Wednesday?
Okay, so on Wednesday, there was two of us, which is why I'm trying to make the motion that we need to defer to
All
a
right,
team
then
together.
I hear eligibility and selection wants
Yeah,
to
we
move
need
on.
to
Move on.
But I think we're set though, but yeah.
Okay, sweet. Proposal development. That is Tyler Brasher, am I correct?
Yes.
Also known as
Tyler.
Tyler Keys.
Yeah, that's Tyler.
Ben?
Did you get the comments from Nick? Did you ever submit those?
Whatever was sent yesterday, on the 26th, on the 27th, whatever was sent on the 27th.
So, did Michael Jones, did he send you? Oh, he did? Okay.
Want me to go back to that?
Oh, do you want to go
So
through it?
maybe,
since
yeah,
you
so
did
maybe
send-
we're ready to adopt it.
All right, let's go
Yeah.
back to eligibility and selection.
Let's do it, Kenyatta.
Period where they have to be adopted, and we have to,
I think June 1st was our.
June first is
Official
the
deadline.
official date that they have
Yes.
to be adopted.
Yes. All right, eligibility and selection, well then one of you two beautiful women have got to talk and do it in your best Michael impersonation.
Can I speak to that deadline?
Yes, Fabian?
If you guys adopt this on June 1st, I won't be able to have the legal department review it on time. So, I mean, when you guys are done, I have to give all the documents to the legal and finance department to review, and then after that is when we can publish it. So, I will hope that you guys will do it before. I understand that, you'll do it whenever time you're ready, but don't use June 1st as a.
Okay, well, it was originally April 30th and then it changed
Yeah.
to June 1st, so now it's somewhere between April 30th and June 1st. Preferably sooner.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
So we're ready.
All right, go, do it.
Kenyatta, go.
I see what you did there. It's dirty.
Okay, so I think it's probably before we decide for sure, if we can scroll to the page the section that has, project ideas must, and then there's an associated cost identified, that will let me know whether or not the final piece was actually complete. So it should be in the next section. So let's go a little bit more past that. Okay. So there are costs there. Okay. So what I can say in general is that when we discussed this on 2 or 3 occasions, we ended up doing a lot of shifting just so that the section flowed. There weren't a lot of pieces that we felt were
maybe highlight the major changes that
Okay.
might be things that people would want to flag or have.
Okay. So, and that,
So
that
at the very top, it has, if you go to the very top of it, it says there's an opportunity for communities, should that be changed to community members?
Yes, and that sounds like something that you, Carol, as a recently nominated person who can fix that stuff after the fact, can absolutely make that change on your own. Congrats again, by the way.
So if we are just looking at the major changes, then we should go to that section where we've identified the limits on prices, because that's the only substantial change. And, it's down below that, I believe it's highlighted yellow on the screen, there it is. So the project ideas must, the first couple are included, take place in Nashville, benefit the public at large, accomplish the project's implementation goals within the funding period. And then here's the cost. What we thought was we established a minimum of $300,000 project with a maximum of $800,000. Michael, who's our money person, had this really big explanation behind it, but I would look down to, so we get about half projects, and he said yes. So we can get somewhere, depending on the range of the projects, you get between 12, likely to 16 projects funded with these minimum and maximums.
If 800,000 is the maximum, why does it say 800,000?
I don't know, because I wasn't there last
Right.
time. But when we last
No, no.
spoke, it was 800,000.
Why does it say 800,000 or higher? Is that just a typo?
No, well, that is a typo, because 800,000 was the cap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Should we say, change it to comprise a full project with a maximum cost of $800,000?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a PDF, so I have to go.
I'm a little, my feelings about this, like, applying, to balance it with it takes away to create like a balanced thing where like, you're guaranteeing that every ballot item is gonna get funded. If you put these, so it's like, what's the point of having a ballot then? If the delegates are just choosing the 16 items that will be funded because they're choosing 16 items that will.
I think this is something we would like to have Michael here for, and ideally more members of our
Well,
subcommittee.
you're not guaranteeing, right, it's 35.
Right, there's 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Sorry, you're
35
right,
total.
my bad.
Okay.
That's a great point, I'm sorry.
And I
That's
think-
all I have to say to make me feel better about
Okay,
it.
I think
Right.
what they're trying to do is get the most bang for the buck, with dollars that are available, and without funding every single project, it still whittles it down, and like you said, you should get the 12 to 16.
Between 12 to 16 of the 35.
I feel great about
Okay,
it.
okay, we don't
I'm
need Michael
very
again.
grateful.
Michael, you're once again unnecessary. There you go.
Well, I mean,
Oh, no.
sorry.
Just
Hey,
kidding.
now listen now, listen, this is gonna take another 30 minutes, we need our chair here. But we have decided that we're gonna go with 300 to 800, right? Some things we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right?
Well, I think the purpose of this meeting is to have discussion, and I.
We're having discussion.
Right.
Wow.
No, I understand what he's saying, but
I haven't said
our
anything.
I know.
chairman.
All right, let's let Ben make his
Yeah, go
comment,
ahead,
and then
Ben,
I'll,
make your
I'll,
comment.
as I did with Gary's comment, I'll determine
Yeah.
whether or not we need Michael
Make
here
your
for continued
comment, Ben.
discussion.
My
But be respectful to Ben.
Yes.
My personal opinion is that we can just have a max and no minimum. And the reason why I would say that is because if all the determined to be great ideas can be funded, I think that would be great.
So I have feedback
Yeah.
to that. So we talked about that because last year, I believe it was $250,000 or there were some numbers.
It's like 250 to 300.
Something
yeah.
like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And when Michael reminded me, and I believe this, the woman that had come early on in some of our sessions talked about the ability of the budget delegates to fold ideas in, right? So it isn't necessarily a one idea that makes the
$300,000, but it could be a compilation of 5 ideas. And so, having that minimum, or at least the way that we thought it, really again goes back to having a substantial product that might represent 5 or 6 ideas instead of having a lot of individual products.
Right.
So we didn't think about that, and I can't remember the woman who came in early.
From the board of like Nashville.
Yes,
Vice
and she
President,
talked
yeah.
about this, the idea of combining some ideas to really make it a substantive project, so that's why I thought that.
My second comment is that given, like if you scroll up to the different buckets, that's based on SBI. If you have the minimum being $300,000 in, for example, the most privileged section, that is limiting it to 3 at maximum ideas.
3 at maximum projects.
3 at maximum projects.
So again, that could be 20 ideas.
Right.
But I guess that's the other thing is the budget delegates could staple together things that are not. I think the ideas that I was given as examples were cohesive ideas. A bench with next to a community garden, next to a mural. Are we saying that it could be trash cans very far away, but within the same district, next to?
But if it falls underneath beautification, for example, then it could be trash cans and a park bench.
Right. Basically what I'm saying is, I think that the model that we've laid out almost pushes in my district, the District 20 participatory budget plan, where it's almost like the group of people get together and they propose one idea outside of the idea process and submit that as the quote cohesive idea. And I think like that is, I don't think the direction that we would want to go, because I think that's our purpose is
Right.
to synthesize those ideas.
I'm determining this to be something that I would like to have the chair of the subcommittee here,
Right.
Unfortunately. So I think we just need to move on, because I do think this is a worthwhile area for discussion for the whole group to give these feedbacks also on the maximum, yada, yada. So with permission of you ladies, I'd like to just defer this.
Sure.
Terrific. We're moving back to proposal development, and thank you, Kenyatta and Ramona, for stepping up in a time of need.
And I can say that I recognize and understand where you are coming from, with this idea that there may be something that is meaningful to that community, that one thing, and it is $150,000. Understood.
All right, cool. Proposal development.
Nick's not here. You want me to go through the?
Well, I also was listening on Thursday.
Thursday,
Or
yeah.
Wednesday.
I was there Thursday.
Whatever day.
Do we need to table
I
this?
think we can go through it, because I think it's we just did the same thing that we kind of discussed, we just kind of personified it. Basically, so just talking about big ideas. Have we presented this to the full group ever at all? I forget.
Tyler
Yeah, you did for last week.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did the 5-3, what was it, 5-3, the 5-3-1 was a big change.
Yeah.
So we talked about that. The other big change is, what do we do with the extra money? Should there be any extra money? Should we have capture minimums? There might be money designated within a bucket of the SBI groups. So we determined to do a waterfall system about if you have money left over in one bucket, that moves on from the least vulnerable to the most vulnerable. Okay, money is going away from the least vulnerable to the most vulnerable, one step at a time. Or review, assess, can any further projects be funded? If not, go to the next budget. Keep going like that until we're close to spending as much money as possible. So
You mean from the most vulnerable to the least vulnerable?
no, that's actually what you think, but then you think about it, like the least vulnerable has money left over, that least money goes into the second.
Copy.
So,
Got it.
in alignment with the vision statement, trying to get the most money to the,
Coolio, I got you now.
one big change. The next big discussion point that we had was what happens when an idea, because as was mentioned, these ideas are really going to be seeds, not fleshed out ideas. What happens if those ideas make most sense to be on a borderline or cross boundaries of more than one SBI district? So, I think there's percentages. So, who is at the online one? Because it's very perfect. Okay, so where did we decide on the vulnerabilities? It was the if there's multiple districts that a project physically is in multiple ones or on a borderline of multiple, more than one, right? Because you can have 3 or more as another option. So we were saying, who funds it? What funding stream funds it? And we were saying, fund it from, did we land on the most, the one with the highest pot of money remaining?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because originally we discussed taking it from the majority of the area that it was in.
Right.
And subsidizing the percentages in the surrounding areas to pull that in. I think as we talked through it, realized how convoluted it was and went for that
Right.
idea.
So basically, there's lots of discussions on this about you could figure out like what percentage of the project is in whatever, what's the kind of the watershed of being helped by, but that's really convoluted. So we thought it might just be easiest to just kind of do a dry cut of if the project is, in this case, $300,000, it pulls from at that point in the process, not from the beginning, but say this is the 15th project funded, whatever funds are most available within what pot, that's what it costs.
Whichever fund of the SBI.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Like if one fund has $2 million left, another fund has $1.5 million left.
Enter the waterfall effect.
Gotcha. Are y'all completed, like, do you have a clean version of this, or are there still changes that y'all are making?
So what happened is online, we had discussion, and then Nick took that discussion and put it this. I have not seen the final thing yet.
Okay.
Like that's the.
We're gonna swoop these on over to our next meeting too then.
Cool, but just that's where we're at.
Thank you.
So I think
Great work.
and this may have been discussed, but how is it that there would be this overlap? I thought the process was that the budget delegates get their bucket of ideas and then present an idea for their district.
Right,
Where-
so like within one district, you can have multiple SBIs.
Like my
Right.
district, okay,
Right.
gotcha,
Yeah.
Right,
gotcha.
so like, if it's right
Right.
there.
I got you.
And then the other thing that we said is the determination about when an overlap occurs. If it's 5%, right, that's not enough to trigger this thing. We said, I believe it was 20%. Yes.
Got it.
20% overlap is being determined, then you trigger the overlap clause.
Cool. All right, thank you so much, Ben. And that brings us to voting, and we have 16 minutes minus 2 for. Voting is up next, not last but not least.
Oh, the voting section.
Correct, yes, the section dedicated to voting.
Chair, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen to bring up your
All right, thank you, Chair. So we didn't have a whole lot of changes that we made. The biggest thing was Veronica's suggestion of changing the language to be more inclusive, so got it amended, that in there. We did add in voting at metro public libraries via voting boxes, because that seems to be the primary in-person vector for this. Did add in the nugget that one ballot will be sent to each household and more can be requested for additional household members and pets. Sorry, that's sorry, do not have pets. But so I think the question that we had, a lot of this stuff is already baked in, and there's going to be basically the only information that's required to vote is the address and a signature on it. We didn't put that specific information in here, although that exists. And additional votes are thrown out of it. So if somebody votes like 5 times on, up Nashville and then via mail. So I think that was one thing that was my understanding that's kind of already baked in. I wasn't necessarily sure, Lindsay, if we should include that in the specifics.
Do you mean thrown out, like if someone votes 5 times, the second, third, fourth, fifth time are thrown out, or all 5?
What's that? All 5. Yeah. You mess around.
I would agree
I have
with
a
that.
question to my own question. How do you control somebody using an address that we can't verify? You know what I mean?
I think it's if there's a duplication. So if there's like
No,
Bob
what I mean
Smith
is,
and
one,
Fred Smith.
so I'm sorry, so for example, 123 Main Street is the address. It's really your address, okay? I put it down as my address, but are we counting the person, or is it the household, the address? You only get 5.
You can have multiple people in the household.
Okay.
The name is supposed to go with that.
We can put that in there, so future Lindsay will not be confused, because I keep forgetting that, like, every meeting.
And so this is not like a Columbia House Record of Date Company where I registered as somebody and
But no, like, that is like confusing, and then also, is it the first count, and then 2, 3, whatever thrown out, but no, it's all of them, so that's why I confuse myself.
Okay.
When I'm clear with people.
So I apologize. I thought.
No,
That's
that
a
was
really
just
great-
something, no, that was
No,
just
no,
something that
that's a
came
great
up,
point.
that was just something that came up today, so.
So, and I think one of the things that we were talking about that we were concerned about is if there's like, if there's a shelter where a lot of people are using the same address for that, we didn't want to make sure that all those folks were included in there.
Right.
So, got that, we got clarification on what the voting looks like, so everybody's gonna be sent one by mail, one per household. They can request more. We've got Hub Nashville, we've got the expos, any community events that come up. The polling stations, right, and I believe library with the special box is kind of like the primary vector there. And that was really, those were the major changes that we made, because we discovered after talking to Quinta that a lot of our answers were pretty much already baked in. Lindsay, was there anything?
No, and again, on the spot, do you all think we should include anything about they're responsible for their postage? For the ballot, since we're saying that the ballot is mailed to them?
Do we have a dollar amount?
No, but I was
Fabian
asking
seems like he has an idea.
I'm like, are we doing return postage, paid envelopes? No, so do we need to put something in the language that they are responsible for the postage? Not that phrasing, but have the understanding, we're mailing you the paper ballot.
It seems weird that we're mailing and not doing return.
Yeah, so I didn't know if you all thought that we should put that out.
So I understand that probably is after.
Fabian, your thoughts?
I don't know that we can mail a ballot to every household. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. So I will suggest that you put, if budget permits, or contingent to the
But what
budget.
if they request? that,
I mean,
you
if
know,
they-
Is there a way there that, well, I know. So they can request additional ballots, but would that be the same way that they would do it to request the ballot on?
So we, in the past, we did that. We mailed people information upon request, and they usually put their own stamp on the envelope, but if you guys want, and depending on the budget, we can send them a self-stamp
Very
envelope.
hopeful, but I feel like there'd be a lot of wasted money.
So if residents needs to request additional ballots, can they provide an email address and we do it that way?
Not everybody has it.
They can actually vote online using Hub Nashville. If they want a ballot, they can call 311, or they can let us know. They can call the mayor's office, and we will mail them a ballot. The thing that I'm iffy about is I don't want to promise you guys that I'll be able to mail a ballot to every household in Nashville, to every resident, because the amount of money is limited. So that's
Right, that was my concern. I was trying to find another way to get those ballots distributed without having to worry about postage.
Can we make ballots available at public spaces?
yes, there will be ballots available at every.
Exactly.
You'll be able to.
But instead of mailing it, then they can pick up a ballot. at
That's
the
good,
public
because then I was just thinking with my whole available upon request, what if every, but what if every single household requested one, and then,
Veronica and everybody.
So in that case, like for example, me, in my community, I should encourage them to go to the public library to get ballots.
You should encourage them to
Because
vote.
they will not feel confident to use the website to vote, and they will feel more, confident to pick up a ballot and take it in their own space, in their house, and excuse it together as a family, vote and send it.
May I speak something?
Absolutely.
So part of the plan was to use the trusted partners and like drop some ballots at Connection Americas. Anybody that would want to house or host some of these ballots, we can do that. It's one thing to print, I don't know, 700,000 ballots. And another thing is to print 700,000 ballots and mail them to each household. I mean, that increases dramatically the cost of things. So, and for them to work on the ballot scanner, they have to have a special format, a special paperweight, so it's an expensive printing thing.
Fabian, so.
Hold on, quick, that's something.
oh, hold on, I'm so sorry, Brenda.
And don't forget, that's part of your responsibility to do, you can vote for the ballots, just like you got flyers, and you can distribute them as you, as well as they're sent to organizations or churches or whatever. If they, point is that they should be put in places where they actually will be picked up and used. Because if we just send them out and they're just sitting somewhere and nobody knows they're there, and nobody can pick them up, it's just a waste of printing. So it's always important to make sure that you target the ballots going to the places that the community will definitely use it, and then we also, as a steering committee, and when it gets to a certain part where the people are like the district and council members, engage them in our process, putting that information in the newsletters, and have them also have those available to pick up from their council.
Cool, thank you. Jason and then Veronica.
So sorry, Fabian. So not sending them out to every household, but a flyer. I think that the marketing company was saying that they would send a flyer.
Yes.
For idea submission. Would that also follow for voting?
Yeah, the idea is to send at least 2 flyers to the households in Nashville that are more like less likely to be captured through the online process. And so what you can do on the second mailer is to put a list of all the items that they will get to vote on the ballot, or give them information where to pick up the ballot. I mean, I'll run it by you when we are closer, so you guys can give us feedback on how to better do it. The thing is, mailing a ballot with another envelope inside that they can put the ballot in and mail it.
Super expensive. Veronica.
Yesterday we was talking about that, like setting up tables in any festival around those days, so people can vote there, so we can direct them how to do it. Also, because that's the plan for these coming weeks, to do it with the idea submission, gather a couple, young adults to go to the festivals and run the flyers and explain the people, what it's about. Right? So, I'm thinking the same dynamic for the voting, like go to them, bring the ballots, and encourage them to vote.
So if we have people going out and giving out ballots, inclination is that they give ballots back, but we're saying that that person cannot then take those ballots and then.
I'm gonna table everything else under this subheader because clearly we need to do voting on another day. So let's push this rest of this discussion to another day.
Just one thing to add to that,
We
because I did it last year.
Because we are down to 5 minutes.
But I did it last year where someone handed me a ballot, so I can speak directly. They handed me a ballot, I filled it out, they gave me a blank envelope, I just had to put my name and address on it and seal it, and then it was then considered official.
Oh, okay. There we go, voting, please take that into consideration. Karen?
I do have one question on the voting as far as, well, as if we're rolled on. So how is it determined that there's a duplicate vote? So let's say that there's a Robert Johnson that places a vote, who also has a son that goes by Robert Johnson, doesn't use Junior the second, doesn't delineate that he's the son, there's no way, what is in place that doesn't kick those votes out?
So there will be volunteers that will actually log in all the envelopes that are received, and they will be cross-checked against the people that voted online on a database. And so last year, for example, we saw duplications where somebody voted on paper and somebody voted online. It was the same name, same address, and so both votes were eliminated. So it is a matter of keeping track and entering all that data in a database, and then running that database against the database of all the households in Nashville. We have a database of every home in Nashville where people live. So.
There was a category of, at the voting process that was called, what do we call them? Something like.
Provisional divider.
Right, provision. Those come back to you, it's still to determine whether or not those votes are.
That makes sense. All right, seeing that it's 2:57, and I want to respect everyone's time on their weekend, there will be no mandatory meeting on Thursday. If you and your subcommittee want to get together on that Zoom, please do, and please let them know ahead of time to set up rooms for you. Otherwise, our next meeting will be that next Saturday, I believe it is May the 13th. Yep. Is our next scheduled in-person meeting, and the goal of that meeting will be to go through eligibility, proposal development, and voting. Given that we are 3 out of 5 categories are not ready to be adopted today, I'm going to also move the adoption of the ones that we did go through today to that next meeting, so that if anybody wakes up in the night with a nightmare, yes, then.
That seems like I would very much like us to be completely done next Saturday, so I don't know if there's a possibility that we do meet Thursday to all but vote on. I'm saying all but vote, like go through, but there's some discussions we're having about the limit, like whatever pieces the chair thinks would be most appropriate to be discussed online. I think it sounds like there's 2 meetings of things to be processed through, and I would love to be done with it.
Okay, all those in favor of going back and having that Thursday meeting and using it to hear from these groups so that we can quickly vote on the following Saturday, raise your hand. Anybody who just wants to go straight to Saturday? All right, cool, then screw everything I just said, Thursday meeting's on, and, no, it's a really good point, Ben, I'm glad you made it. And then I look forward to seeing everybody for discussion of these 3 holdouts on Thursday, and then the following Saturday, we will vote on the whole thing. Cool? Anyone want to move to adjourn?
Good job.
Anyone want to move to adjourn? I move to adjourn. Anyone want to second that? Second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of adjourning?